on Twitch. Have you all been having a good TwitchCon Rotterdam? Yeah? Oh my gosh. I'm so glad to be sitting here with you all and with some really incredible and wonderful, amazing, talented creators. It's going to be a good time. We're going to jump into charity streaming on Twitch, why that's important. My name is Ash Said Hi. My pronouns are she, her, and I stream mostly retro games, and I have done some charity streaming. So I'm glad when they asked me to be here with you all today, we can talk about it, because it's such a great thing to do good on Twitch. So we're going to talk about all of that. The panel will be, first we're going to introduce ourselves, right? And then we're going to talk about the basics of how to host a charity stream, leveling up your charity stream, and then we'll take questions at the end, probably close to about 15 minutes before the panel is over. But again, the importance of charity on Twitch, I think it's like a really great way to grow your channel, to do good, and to meet other creators who are of a like mind. And there's a lot of really great charities out there that, need help. And this is a wonderful way to bring them some money. Like, realistically, that's what it's about. So let's get into introducing ourselves. There's some great slides so you can learn all about all of these wonderful creators sitting next to me. And I'd love it if you can tell us about what you do on Twitch, your streaming journey, your charity journey, and what charities you raise money for. So, Spoofy, you want to start?
Sure. My name is Spoofy, pronouns are she, her. I stream a variety of games, variety in true sense actually, and that has been working for me and has kept streaming very sustainable for me. I am actually not that long into the charity journey, and Rosanna here on stage has actually introduced me to charity streaming. So my first my first charity stream was in November, for Movember. That's actually why you could see me wear a mustache here. Which also included some crazy incentives, and the community blew me away with my very first good amount of $2,569.69 raised. So that was amazing for my first charity.
Awesome.
Yes, so I am Centane, also known as Camilla. My pronouns is she, her. I actually started my journey with playing a lot of variety as well, but mostly FPS. I did competitive Counter-Strike and Valorant, and I've been playing for esports team and streaming for them. And then I'm a partner of, as you can see, Make-A-Wish and Save the Children, and I have raised a total of my community a little over $17,500.
That is impressive. Oh my gosh, that's really wonderful. Roz.
Hi, I'm Rosannatxt, also known as Roz. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a Minecrafter. I play Minecraft. That's all I really do. So 3 years ago, I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So for me, not only have I learned how to deal with it and educate myself about it, I've also been trying to educate my community and kind of just go through it together. So my first big charity focus was for Diabetes UK, and I did a fun build competition, which Rosanna came to, and built on a plot, and we had like fun Minecraft judges, and so I raised almost $4,000. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Charisse. My pronouns are she, her. I used to be a content creator many years ago, sorry. But now I work in the industry as a partnerships manager for Elgato, which probably a lot of people are familiar with. In the past, I did a lot of fundraising for Save the Children. They have a really good program when it comes to fundraising and like yearly events that they sometimes do. And I sort of took my passion for charity and I tried to bring it to the company and try and do more with different charities across the globe.
Wonderful. You raised $18,000.
Yes. Many years ago.
That's amazing. What's that?
Yes, hello. So my name is Rosannatxt, and I have fundraised for a wide variety of charities at this point. But I think my main one is Movember. It's always a big event every year where I do a month-long fundraising, and I actually did a fundraiser last month, which was also very cool. So it's like a continuous thing on my stream. I stream The Sims, co-working, and a sprinkle of IRL.
Awesome. That's wonderful. It's great to get to know all of you all through all of your fundraising efforts. And you've got to start somewhere, right? Like, so let's talk about the basics of how you would even begin to think about, if I'm going to start fundraising, where do I begin on Twitch? Would I start with finding a charity? Do I think about the tools? Where did you all start? And I am going to start with Roz.
Okay, so for me, I think mine's a little more personal. I think having a chronic illness or something that is personal to you, which I think Movember and stuff like that, I think it's really important for the drive. And as I say with me, like I really want to educate, because for me it's, if my streamer friends also know about it, it makes me feel a little bit more like seen, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So doing something that I think is personal to you is the most important thing. And even if you don't have something and you can't find something that's personal that you can relate to or feel passionate about, then I think just trying it out and slowly trying different charities and talking to different charities. I know there's a lot at TwitchCon that you can talk to as well. Everyone's so lovely. So yeah, just go crazy.
What about any of you all? Like, if you were looking for your first org to raise money for, like, how did you find that information?
So I think something, sorry, I've been doing a lot of talking today. The first question, like whether you're ready to host a charity stream, I think a lot of people are worried that they have to first like grow a big audience, or they have to do like big things before they're ready to do charity fundraising. And I think something that is very close to my heart is telling everyone that you can do it at any time, because every dollar to charity is a good dollar. It doesn't matter if you raise $5 or $5,000, every single dollar counts. And like Ross said, also, it's like finding a charity that you're passionate about and talking about it. You're not just raising money, you're also raising a lot of awareness for that charity and around that topic, which matters a lot as well.
Yeah. So when you're ready to host for a charity, like, do you think that there's a lot of pressure to feel like, oh, if I'm not going to raise a big amount, should I even do it? Right?
You totally should. So basically, some things to keep in mind is that charities, they have within their programs, they tend to have like different things where they sort of like utilize the money that is being raised. So they have different categories. So let's say a charity like Save the Children, for example, even $1 can literally save a child's life. And it might not seem, for example, in the sense of in poorer countries, where things like even just diarrhea, which you go like, okay, but diarrhea doesn't seem like it's like a something that you would die from. But in poorer countries you can, and $1 can literally save a child's life. So all of these different charities tend to have different incentives and things that they're trying to go towards. So literally every single dollar counts.
I find that, like, personally for me, if I'm ready to host a charity stream, I tend to go to look at things like, maybe y'all might not know this exists if you're just starting out, but like Tiltify, because then there's like a list, or like even like something like Crowd Control. They have this really cool list of like charities that they're affiliated with, and then you can like just turn on a game and then start raising money. It's super easy. So if anybody else has anything to add about finding charities, I'd love to expand on that a little bit, because there's so many good ones out there, and I think understanding maybe like what they're about and where they send the money might be informative for our audience.
So the ways that I used to do it when I first started out was that I searched up through Tiltify, as you said, and then the more you started doing it, the more of a community you get through, let's say, Twitch or TikTok or wherever you stream from. And then you will meet up with friends. For example, Rosanna started something that's called Fundraising with Friends, where she's like talking about Movember, for example, or other things, so you can get a community and also friends through this and fundraise together, make it more of a community type of thing, as well as you're doing it all for an amazing cause, no matter how much you raise, because you do it together for a better cause.
Yeah, I think I might want to add to that, as in like, I originally just watched other streamers and I watched what they were fundraising for, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And my first charity stream was because I saw someone else fundraise for that cause, and I was like, that's an amazing cause. I'd love to fundraise for them as well. And then I did, for me personally, I really prefer to work with Tiltify, because I know then the money doesn't go like anywhere near me. It just can go straight to the charity. So that helps you in like feeling confident, okay, this is a good charity to fundraise for.
If I can add to that, I think something helpful as well to add is I know not many people fundraise for diabetes at all. It was something that I felt like I wanted to bring awareness anyway, and so fundraising for a charity to do with it was important to me. But it's just as valid and cool to do a charity that other people don't even know or isn't popularly fundraised for. It's still cool. It's still good.
I think another way too is like on Twitch teams, right? Like if there's a team that's doing like a big thing, like I know someone that does Game On to End Lupus, and they just hit $1 million for their team over the last, I think, like 3 years. And then, you know, they do outreach on socials, like, hey, we're fundraising at this time, and that's a good way to also find like good things to fundraise for. So yeah. And then when we're talking about how to actually raise that money through Tiltify, or, you know, like the Twitch charity tool or any of the other tools that are out there, tell us about like your experience with that. I know, Charisse, you have some things to say, so if we could get some insight on that.
Yes, of course. So, I mean, finding a charity sometimes can always be very daunting, but there's actually this platform that's called Charity Navigator, and they have like a list of all of the charities there and like how reputable they are, their levels of transparency. So even if you're like not so familiar, or you cannot maybe find so much information on a website or online, this is like a really great place to search, and hopefully you'll feel more comfortable and confident in your choice of charity.
Are there any tools, maybe anyone here on the panel knows, like where we can find out, once we're raising money for this charity, to find out like where the money goes, or like anything to kind of vet like that organization is actually, the money we're giving them is actually going where we want it to go?
I feel like in my personal experience, which is, I feel like a luxury, I got to work with the people from Movember, so they just told me directly about like, this is the initiative happening this month or next year, or this is a big project that we're currently funding. I also know that Movember is very vocal on their website and make a lot of videos and stuff about what they do. So I think if you have like a way to contact a charity, to just talk, hey, like I fundraised for you and I would love to share with my community what you recently did for a project, they're often very eager to share their stories.
That is very, very helpful. Yeah, because you want to make sure if you're raising money that it's going exactly where it's gonna go. So then let's talk about like, once we found our charity, we know that this is like a good, reputable organization, we're ready to start, we're using Tiltify. How do we set up like our goals and our incentives? Like how do you figure out like what you actually want to do to entice people to donate? So I'm gonna start off with Spooky.
Yeah, so this was a little bit of a challenge for me when I started this, because this felt very big for me. Like, where do I want to start? Like, is maybe $10 too little? Is maybe $2,000 too big? I wasn't sure, and maybe you have that little imposter within you telling you like, is this too much? Is that, you know? So, you know, start small, and maybe, you know, maybe your community will blow you away. One thing before I was actually looking at the goal was thinking about incentives. And what do you understand about incentives? You have individual ones and you have like community ones, right? So Tiltify actually has a great way of offering individual incentives. So when people donate, they can get like maybe a little thank you card from you, or maybe they get their name on board when they donate. So those are things that you maybe want to think about before you actually start the charity. And community incentives can be, we reach a certain goal or a certain milestone, and I do a certain cosplay, or I eat a bean boozled bean, and maybe some of you guys know how those taste like, and I'm very sorry for you, but there you go. So what I did was actually I wrote down a list of all those things, and there I went. I wrote everything down, and as I went, I was like, okay, maybe these are a lot. These are maybe too big. These are maybe too small. Balance it out, because you have the little incentives, you have the big incentives. Balance it out. Don't put too much on your plate, because there's a lot going on when you're doing charity. So yeah, balance those out. Start small. Don't give everything away, because I panicked. I messaged Bro when I reached my first $200. I said, Bro, what do I do? People are actually giving money to charity. She was like, do you have more incentives? I said, I do. She's like, go for it. Just, prepare more, and just you got this.
Keep going.
Exactly. So prepare more, don't give everything away at once, and trust in yourself. Yeah.
I think I can add a little bit to that as well. If you feel like you're struggling to come up with incentives and goals, you do have to feel comfortable with boundaries, but open a Discord channel and ask your community, what would you like to see? Is there a game that you want to see me play? Is there something silly that is a community meme that maybe happened 2 months ago and you forgot about? Also, just in general, if there is a community meme, write it down for yourself somewhere. Keep a little note so that if you do ever do a charity fundraiser, you have that note to fall back on. But your community is wicked. I'm looking at you, bunch over there.
They love to see you suffer. Yeah. I know, like, for some people that I know, they're like, oh, if we raise X amount of dollars, I'll play this really difficult game. Speaking of, like, wanting to suffer. But yeah, that has happened to me. But I think, like, one of my favorite things is definitely crowd control. Because, like, once you put in a game, like, chat can just go wild, Skyrim crowd control is out of this world. So, yeah, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I feel like I do stuff very differently from you guys, which is really interesting. So, luckily I'm friends with a developer, and every $5 people would unlock a Minecraft build plot, and they'd be able to unlock merch, and they'd be able to have the opportunity to be judged by big, like, Minecraft YouTubers. So that was the drive for me raising money, and that's how I got the 3,000, which I think is interesting, because I didn't do any kind of eating jelly beans or nothing like that.
Please don't start.
Yeah.
Don't.
So I don't think you should feel like you have to do something. Like, go crazy. Like, be inventive. It doesn't have to be a box, and you don't have to do what everyone else does. I think charity is charity,
I think one of the things that was most successful for me is I did $5 charcoal drawings when I was raising money for Starlight. So I would say, okay, you give me $5, I'll draw whatever character you want. And I quickly made my goal. It was really, really fun. And also, because that weekend was also when you donate, you got the chat badge. Remember the heart badge? Stuff like that also helps too. Have you all ever done that before, where you raised money and got the chat badge?
I wished. That would have been great timing.
But yeah, there's some really great tools. So once you're like, okay, I'm gonna start doing my fundraiser, now I want to let people know. How do you market your charity stream?
A lot of social media posts.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to spam people. Repetition is key. I miss this on Blue Sky, but I hope they will add it at one point. But on Twitter, you can schedule a post. I'll just go ahead and schedule it for to go live every 2 days. I'm and a countdown of so many days until the fundraiser starts. I'll post about it in the Discord, and even how no matter how many times you post it, there's still going to be people that are like, ah, shit, I missed it. So don't be afraid of posting too much, specifically about charity, because it's not a bad thing anyways.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would like to add to that. So something else that you can also do, which you go like, okay, I have friends and family and maybe they're not on Twitch or familiar with Twitch, but you can still share about your charity stream with them. You'd be surprised at how many people actually like tune in for the first time and just try to support you just because you're doing something good for the world. So.
And I would like to add to that too, that marketing is so important, especially if you want to get it out there. So what I've usually done is that I ask, for example, brands, let's say Xbox, if they want to chip in for gift cards for every milestone and so on. And brands love their PR. So what you do is that you can say, hey, I'm going live this day for this charity stream. And they're like, okay, we'll post it on our social media too. They have a lot more reach than I have. And having that on, for example, Xbox's profile or PlayStation or so on, gives so much more reach, and then they get good PR and you get people in your chat.
Have you ever done something where like you partner with them? You mentioned a gift card, but I know like sometimes brands might say like, oh, if you build a computer for charity and you give away a computer or like peripherals or anything. Have any of you all ever done stuff like that?
I have done that for my last November fundraiser. I worked with you. We hosted some giveaways from Elgato. I also worked with Fractal. They hosted a PC case giveaway. I worked with the Sims team to be able to give DLC away. I think that was also a very nice one because I got like different keys and I got to give it away every stream, one single one. So there was an incentive for people to make it to every single stream because there was multiple giveaways, and then everyone who donated immediately became eligible for the bigger prizes. And I feel like it was nice to tell people like, hey, have you ever wanted a stream deck for $1? If you donate $1, you're eligible for potentially winning one.
$1. That dollar's going a long way. I love that. Have there been, through all of those experiences, any lessons learned, like anything that you're like, oh, I could have done this better, or, you know, I learned something the hard way? I know here we have it that Spoofy wanted to start off with that, so I can start here.
Two things, actually. One, don't bite off more than you can chew. As I said, going back to the incentives and the goals, I can be very passionate and enthusiastic about things, and I want to promise a lot of things, but I have learned that if I promise things to my community, like a thank you card, when you're doing charity, a lot of things happen at the same time, and then after charity, life happens. I still have to write my thank you cards. So that's a lesson learned. I have to learn that I want to keep my promise to my community as well. And as the support has been amazing, that is something that I need to think about too. Secondly, not so much something that I feel like I should have done better, but something that I have learned and that kind of surprised me is giving the space to your community to share their stories during a charity is so incredibly valuable, because at first it could be that a charity doesn't really resonate immediately with your community, but when you give the space to your community to share their stories, to talk about it, more people actually realize how close something can actually be to them and how things can actually resonate to them. So open up that conversation, because awareness is actually so much more valuable than maybe even the numbers that you're seeing on the screen. Because awareness makes the world go round for that charity. It spreads the word, and it makes it even not only for a stream, but it is that drop in the water that causes the ripple to, spread the word. So open up that conversation and give your community the space to, open up the conversation to, make people relate more to the charity. And that's something I've learned, and something that actually made me emotional a couple of times too. So we really like to give that. Yeah.
Anybody else have any lessons learned you want to share?
I think something for me that was harder, especially on bigger charity events, like one that's a month long, you're gonna have peaks and you're gonna have slower moments. And in the slower moments, sometimes it can feel like, oh shit, this is it. This is the event, it was done, I failed. It's okay, just like anything in life, it goes up and down, and that's okay. You're gonna have amazing highs, but you're also gonna have more chill moments, and also lean into those especially if you do things that are longer than a week. I know some of us do like month-long charity events. It can get really intense if you try to keep that hype going all the time, not just for you, but also for your community, because most of us, you have people that come to chill in your stream, they're just hanging out, they're vibing, they're not also always looking for that super hyped energy all the time. So like, it's okay to have that balance and allow yourself that grace of like, sometimes it goes very fast and sometimes it's a bit slower. And that was definitely something that made me feel insecure at times in my first fundraiser, and then I learned that was completely normal.
I think to your point about, awareness and stuff like that, and you saying you raise funds for like my father had diabetes, right? And just you talking about, hey, there aren't a lot of people raising funds for diabetes now makes me think like, oh, that's a lesson for me. Like maybe I should look more into doing that. And also, your point about burning out your community, I think is really important, because if you're fundraising every day, right, like, especially like if you are used to doing like subathons and stuff like that, like your community is not just going to endlessly give, and that you have to be mindful of not only the energy you're expending, but the energy that your community is expending as well. So anybody have anything to share about any other lessons that they might have learned?
I can share one. So basically, over the different years of fundraising, something that has worked really well is to sort of, because when you have a community, is again to not exhaust them in terms of like funds and everything, having it be like a special event that you do every so often, because sometimes people, there's even maybe viewers that you might have that will literally just come to the stream just because of this charity fundraiser, because they're just either very passionate about the charity or they just really want to support what you're doing for the world. So yeah, just make it become almost like something that you do annually or biannually, or how many times you want to do, but make it like special, and that they know it's happening way earlier. Like, okay, I'm gonna have my charity stream maybe every December, or every 3 months I'm doing a charity stream, and that also allows your community to save up if they want to support, because people do go above and beyond just to help you and the cause that you choose.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing all of that lovely insight. I feel like I'm learning so much from all of you. Like maybe after this I go home and figure out my next charity stream. So we've talked about the basics a little bit. So let's talk about leveling up our charity stream and working with charities, the experience in increasing our impact and what we can do. So I'm going to start with you, Rosanna.
Yeah, so I think I've already kind of mentioned this briefly, but working with the charity to talk to them about where is this money going, what are you doing, what are kind of projects, do you have any resources? I think just reaching out, they can usually send over things that you can use to kind of prepare your charity stream. And I think also afterwards, in my case, I even worked with the charity on one of my incentives. So I was like, hey, if I'm gonna come to your award show, am I allowed to put it as an incentive that I show up in a lemon suit? And November was like, hell yeah, that
Wait,
sounds
was that in the
amazing.
picture? Was that the lemon suit in the picture?
Yeah. I presented an award on stage in front of 500 people in that suit. It was amazing.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh. Anybody else have any experience with working with charities that they want to share?
Mine's kind of the opposite. I feel like I did a lot of mine externally. I couldn't. So the guy, when I was doing my diabetes fundraiser, he wasn't around because I think something happened to him, so he couldn't be around. So I'm hoping to do another fundraiser soon, but finally I'm gonna have that contact there of talking to him. But I think it's also okay if you can't get in contact with the charity, don't let that limit you.
Yeah.
Still go crazy. Yeah, that's my input.
Yeah, so sometimes also like you might find that some charities, especially if they're more well known in the gaming space, they might also have their own streams and things going on. So this is also a really like nice and easy way to sort of like try and get in touch, because there's always a representative that's going to be around. So yeah, definitely search for them on Twitch, just Movember or whichever charity, Save the Children, St. Jude's, they all have like their own Twitch platforms and social media.
Yeah, I just realized something to add to that as well. Specifically, St. Jude's is very well known for this, I guess, because they have like a whole event that is specifically targeted towards like raising funds on stream. But I think a lot of charities, even smaller charities, do this where they're like, hey, if you can get a group of people together, like if they raise this amount, they'll get a t-shirt from us or something. So charities sometimes also have incentives to get people to fundraise for them. And that's not always on the website. So sometimes just like popping them a quick email of like, hey, I want to fundraise. Do you have anything? Sometimes they do have things ready to go to actually enable you more.
Yeah, that's a good point about emailing them, because I have found through doing that, like a lot of charities have Discord servers. So, and what's awesome about that is usually within the Discord servers, they have like assets, videos, overlays, everything to make your charity streaming journey as easy and seamless and cohesive as possible. So that is definitely something to look for, and emailing them is a really good way to do that. So once you've done that, you're like, okay, I found my org. Now I want to get a group of people together. Let's talk about collaborating with streamers and your experiences on collaboration and fundraising teams. So I'm going to start with, I started with Rosanna earlier, but I'm going to start with Spoofy this time, and then Rosanna.
Sure. So collaborating with other streamers can bring so much value. Not only can it be a lot of fun, but it can give you so much more visibility for you and your charity. I was very lucky to be joining the Fundraising Friends team of Ro, and that gave me the opportunity to have access to a lot of not only resources, but also very like-minded people who were having different strategies of approaching a charity, and it gave the opportunity to actually work together with streamers too. Interestingly, I didn't actually reach out to a lot of the streamers within the Fundraising Friends team, but I actually reached out to some streamers that I either already collaborated with or was actually curious to collaborate with, which actually meant that I was even kind of expanding that way of visibility for the charity. And it was very interesting because this was for me an opportunity of like, hey, I already wanted to like collab with you. And also, by the way, I'm doing a charity this month. So do you want to do like a fun stream? Do you want to game together? Or do you want to do this blind food tasting test? I don't know. I don't know where this random idea came from. Maybe it was this weird milestone that my community just, reached that we can do for charity. So yeah, it is a lot of fun, and it creates a lot of visibility, and that's on the collaborating side. But also collaboration can also be just informing your peers. Hey guys, I'm raising money for charity. No pressure, just wanted to let you know. Some people just knowing, when they're ending their stream and they see you streaming, they're like, oh, hey, Spoofy's streaming. I know she's doing a charity. Let's go support her. That is also a way of working together and banding together for charity, having that visibility, just informing your peers. And because I know that I would love to do the same. If I know that Ro is, having a charity, or Camilla is doing one, then I would love to, send them some support if I know that they're doing a charity stream. So just small ways and big ways, I think is very valuable and a lot of fun, because, you don't have to do it all alone.
I think I would love to second that point of view, saying the rating part, because I love to rate out to people that are doing charity streams. So definitely, again, like marketing your charity stream is not just important to get people to know that you're doing the stream so they can donate or they can come watch, but it's also great for other streamers to know that you're doing a big project, that if they want the support, they can. So that's definitely, thank you for adding that. I'm glad you said. I think for collaborating with other streamers, something that isn't even Fundraising Friends, but I joined someone else's campaign, Simmers for Palestine last year, and that was such an amazing event. And we did a big Fortnite tournament, which was funny because none of us really actively played Fortnite. So it was horrendous to watch. I think we all were like terrible, but that made it all the more fun for our viewers. That was kind of like an incentive, like, hey, if we reach X amount, then we all, like all of us simmers, will play Fortnite, and it will probably be stupid. So you can also collaboratively come up with incentives or goals that you can reach for like all of your communities together. And it again, it sort of like builds upon that community feeling that already gets so much stronger through charity streams. And it's just like, it makes the impact infinitely bigger.
That is really such good points. I feel like, you know, like the events are great, rating into people, like definitely looking at charity tags to see who's streaming. I love doing that. And also on Tiltify, sometimes you can see like who's live now if you select a charity, and you can see like all the channels that are doing like one big event for the year. So that's a really good way to do it. And also, raid trains. That's a good, because we did a raid train for 1000 Dreams Fund in the Women's Guild, and we were raising money to get creators to TwitchCon San Diego. So that was a really effective way to get people to raise money for charity and bring visibility and keep the hype going. So yeah, that's definitely one way to do it too. So I want to get into collaborating with brands. Because we talked about with other streamers, but what is it like collaborating with brands? So, Trace, you wanna?
Of course.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's different ways. It could be from the streamer perspective or from the brand perspective. But essentially, if you are doing a charity stream, regardless of the size of your channel, it's always worth to reach out if you find like an email or something from the, either like you can message the, usually brands have like social media, you can try and see if you can get a contact there, just mention like what you're trying to do. But my suggestion would be, as for not just charity streaming, but even for yourselves, if you want to work with brands in general, is to just in your email talk about what you're doing. In this case for charity would be like what charity you're fundraising for, and sort of what you want to achieve, like what are your goals for this fundraiser, and really lay out what you're expecting from the brand and also what you can do in return for the brand. And in this case, for example, something simple that you can do for a brand, just for usually for visibility, is, for example, you can do like the incentive to give away a product for the brand. This already, from a brand perspective, is very useful and helpful, and it's sort of like a way where the brand doesn't take away so much from the stream, but also it's just incorporated in a very like nice and subtle way. Some other things that you can do is provide, maybe depending on what you're going for, of course, like what kind of event you're doing, but providing like small packages. So let's say, I want to do, I have certain milestones to mention, like $500 raised, $1,000, doesn't matter the numbers, but and just be like, this is my plan, my ideas, and usually brands, more often than not, they will see what you're doing, and if it's also a charity that doesn't sort of, or like that matches what the brand, like the values of the brand, because internally brands also have like certain values and things that they want to uphold. And sometimes, let's say if you work with just a random example, if you work with like a company that does toys for dogs, for example, and you're doing a charity for how do you call a shelter, exactly, thank you, then it works really well together, and they go like, of course we would love to provide like some toys to give to the people that support your charity and have something for their own pets. So yeah, I don't know if there's any maybe specific questions from like a streamer perspective that you would think to ask a brand, but that's basically sort of the.
I might want to ask a cheeky question here.
Uh-oh.
So let's say that you want to work with a brand. I think brands are often enticed to be like, we can do like a giveaway or something like that. How would you go about if you want a brand to donate to your charity?
So some ways to do this is, of course, if you, let's say, you're already working with a brand, if you're more familiar with them or like you have collaborated over the years, it's a bit easier because if you've never worked with the brand, it's a bit harder, but they might. It really just depends on the plan that you have laid out and like what your goals are. But I would say it's essentially some good ways is to be like, hey, I want to reach this much, and a nice way to sort of collaborate is to do like a matching fund or up to a certain amount, or providing giveaways as well, because that is also still money for the company that they have to spend. But yeah, I would say definitely the matching would be the nicest way to get it, because then they basically are making it double for everyone's donations.
That is such good advice. I never thought about the matching thing. That is really, really, really awesome.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
I think something that I've seen, there's like a lot of untapped potential in brands that are outside of the streaming space. I used to work for an IT corporate, so I was just pestering them and I was like, hi, do you want to exactly just like match up until a certain amount? But I genuinely think that if you get creative, if you dare to just send an email, there might be some bigger companies that are generally looking to do fundraisers because it's good for corporate branding as well. So they might actually be open to working with you, even though they might not be in the streamer space.
That is such a good big brain idea.
One more thing is always try to shoot your shot. Because if you don't send that mail, you already have a no. And the worst thing you can get is a no. For example, I tried to send a mail to NZXT to get us some computer components, and I was like, they're not gonna do that. And then the day after, they really wanted to help out and got us some giveaways for fundraising friends. And I was just thinking, they're gonna, if they say no, I already don't have it, but I might as well try. And we got it.
Yeah, that's a lesson for life. Let me tell you, always shoot your shot. Never say no to yourself. I always say, don't boo yourself off the stage before you start performing. So yeah, that's really good. I like that advice. So last topic before we move on to our questions is creative ways to maximize impact. And we've already kind of been discussing that, but if there's any other, like, whenever I think of like what's a creative way for me to like get people to want to donate, it's like, you know, do I bake a cake if we like reach a certain amount of money or something like that? But I know, Roz, you might have some cool points to share.
Yeah, well, as I say, I feel like, again, I'm so different to everyone else in the way I've raised money. But honestly, try and combine what you enjoy and what you like with raising money. Like, I love building castles in Minecraft. That's what I do. So there aren't any building competitions. So I was like, why don't I make a building competition and then also raise money while doing it for charity? Like, it makes sense. It's fun. I get to spread what I enjoy doing with my audience and also other people's audiences because of the judges that I had and everything like that. But yeah, I think being creative as well, I think there's a little appreciation that your community can have for the amount of effort you're putting in with the ideas that you come up with. I think getting them involved, them being able to do things maybe that they've not done before when raising money, and combining games with raising money. I feel like that's fun. Like you said, cloud control, right? That I've never tried it, but it seems like
Don't do crowd control Minecraft.
It's
really
fun.
crowd control is
Do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll try it.
Yeah, no, Roz, I been talking about branding a lot this weekend. I've been known for my questionable activities with horses in Red Dead 2. Most of those clips come from crowd control. So, yeah, do crowd control.
Okay, it's fun. This is exciting. I'm gonna do that.
It's really, really fun. Yeah, any other creative things that y'all do?
What I like to use to do in the past is to sort of like, my community knows I sometimes like to do something creative, but it's not really part of the day-to-day. So then I would paint something or do something with my hands, and then I would auction it. So they would sort of like, whoever wanted to take it would take it, and they would sort of battle each other out a little bit. Of course, it is more on the extreme end, because then it's usually tends to go for whoever donates the most. But if they want something and it goes to a good cause, I really don't see why not.
I love that.
I think something that just came to mind while you were saying this is on a panel earlier, I was talking about how it can be scary to experiment with your content, especially if you're very niche down, it can be scary. But I feel like charity streams are the perfect opportunity to experiment because your community is probably already hyped with a charity event. So if you do something that's maybe slightly different, like playing an indie game or doing something that you normally don't do, it can also be sort of a refresher, like a palate cleanser for your community, which then makes it extra exciting to be there for the charity and vice versa. So it kind of like builds each other up in hype.
Mm-hmm.
Can I add again? I fully, I've got something. So for my fundraising, I also thought having a mascot would be really, really cool. So I made a cute, I work a lot behind the scenes in Minecraft, like events or stuff like that. So I have the skills to I made a little blue Minecraft cat because the colour for diabetes charities is light blue, and I called it Panko after pancreas because that links to diabetes. And so I made a little educational video. One of my friends is an animator, and I made a little video where it explains the day-to-day experiences of diabetes and the hardships, but also how you can help. And it had like a little, my thing was called Build by Build, so I had a little Build by Build thing at the end. And I think just a little thing like that's personal, it has other people included. So someone also did a voiceover for it that is also a creator. So it's like a lovely little bubble of people that comes together. And everyone loves Panko, and I think having something that people can recognize and be like, oh, that's from that thing that you did, and reiterate it as well, like I want to do it again this year and have Panko and upgrade it. So when being creative, I think don't limit yourself. Like literally go crazy. Like I made so many Panko posters, I did so many silly renders with silly poses and stuff like that. Like go crazy. Like don't limit.
I love that. I want to see a Panko plush one day.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we have about 13 minutes for questions. So if you have any questions, we have a mic that's going to go around. We'd love to hear any of the questions that you might have about fundraising on Twitch. You can raise your hand and then we'll get the microphone to you. Here you go.
Hi. Oh, is this working? Is this on? Is this thing on? Hello?
Oh, you're good.
I had a question about, I know usually through charities like with Tiltify and those associations, they're rated charities or you could look up their rating. I had a question if either of you had any experience with maybe a charity that's not so well known, or I know with the LA fires that happened, people were raising money maybe just through coffee, or is it called Ko-Fi? I can't remember the name, but they had to raise money maybe a different way or try something a little bit different as opposed to going through that channel. And I know that could be a little bit nerve-wracking to have to handle that money, but I've seen things through maybe through doing like Instagram handles and donating through other avenues. I was just curious if you had any experience with that and trying to manage something that's not necessarily organized with a larger charity organization.
I have experience with that. Yeah, so I wanted to raise money for a charity that didn't have a Tiltify. And so I emailed the rep and they went through Tiltify and then made a free account. It's really simple. I would advise against ever raising money and like putting it in your own personal account, like a PayPal or any of that kind of stuff, because there's legal ramifications for that. I don't know what the laws are like here, but in the United States, like it could be trouble if the money doesn't go where it's supposed to go. So that's why my first instinct would be if they're not on an official platform, they can make an account pretty quickly. Yeah, and that was like 2 months ago. I did that with that charity. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Hi, sorry, you've spoken a little bit about, sorry, I'm really loud. You've spoken a little bit about some things that you kind of wish you knew, maybe when you started. Do any of you have any sort of more insights that you've not really given there, or maybe any mistakes that you or you've kind of seen with people starting to go into doing some charity streams? Any examples of that? You can say no.
I just had a thought. I think I've seen people overcommit what they can spend themselves in budget, because they're like, oh, I would love to do like a big giveaway, or I would like to match donations myself, and then got themselves in an uncomfortable position, which was not fun and kind of made them not like charity fundraising anymore. I think I heard this story before I did my very first charity fundraiser, and I committed to myself. I was like, I gave myself a budget of like, I can spend this amount of money on maybe like buying a silly hat or purchasing a game or whatever, but I made sure that all of my incentives stayed within that budget to make sure that I didn't overpromise myself. And I was really happy I did that, because a lot of people during the stream were like, oh, maybe we can do this or we can do this. I was like, I would love to, but unfortunately I can't, because I thought about it up front.
Yeah, maybe to add to that is that someone also told me that small actions can have a big impact as well. So about adding to not giving too much of yourself or on budget away. You don't have to like shoot for the moon to give back. Know that the small actions can have a big impact on your community as well. And like Ro said earlier, ask your community what they want to see. Ask for their feedback. It holds a lot of value. Yeah,
sorry. Something I learned over the years, because especially back in the day, I'm old, when I used to do charity streams, something that was really popular at the time was doing 24-hour streams, for example. And it might seem fun on paper, but it is very exhausting for one. You will feel really tired towards the end. And what it will also do is not just that day, but the days that are upcoming, you're going to be low on energy. It's going to be hard to just follow up with everything that you have to do as well, your own responsibilities in life. So I would suggest to just split it into 2 days or 3 or however many. But yeah, definitely 24-hour streams, not so great idea.
I think going off of that as well, setting your sights too high, I think is a really good point, because I now know what I can do next time. Like, I reached out to companies, but I don't think I left really enough time for it. I also didn't really I wanted stats and stuff to back it up as well, to like give info, but I didn't really have that because I'd never done charity stuff before. So now that I'm doing it again, I feel a lot more reassured that I can do it, and I can step it up. Like, it can be small steps. It doesn't have to be all in one go and crazy. Just anything that you think will make an impact will make an impact.
Yeah, actually, quickly adding to that, sorry, because it's still on topic. When reaching out to companies, it's also important to reach out as early as you can, because companies they have budgets and things are planned. Like, let's say if you're working for the year, maybe you already, like in January, you already have plans for, like, let's say the first 6 months. So then it becomes a little bit harder for the companies to help you. So the earlier you do it, the better.
I would also say too, oh yeah, you go ahead.
I was just going to say that we have a lot of things that we want to think about when we first do charity streams. We're all thinking like, aim high, aim for sky. We want to raise $10,000 even, But there's one thing that I noticed: so many streamers, they feel bummed out if they do not reach these goals. And even though if you only get $10, that's $10 more than many more in our world. So $10 is amazing,
And I think that to that point too, sometimes like when people hit their goal and then they immediately raise it, like they don't give it time to like kind of rest or like celebrate, like, yeah, we hit that milestone, and then people are like, oh, we hit that milestone, now you're already raising it up. I thought, or like if you do that, you give them something for that. And I think the other thing that I would say is like, we talked about marketing it. I've done charity streams where I didn't really like promote it that much, and then I was like, why didn't I do that? That was not good. So then it's like, you know, you hit your goal, but you don't hit it as quickly, or maybe people, you know, are surprised by what you're doing, or they come to your stream and they're like, what's going on? And then you got a lot of explaining to do. So I would say definitely make sure to market your stream, or your charity stream.
Yeah, I think one last point, at least from my side anyway, is just have fun. I think sometimes it's easy to forget to have fun just because it's for charity, or it's like more of an important topic. But having fun is really important because it will also translate to your community, everyone that is watching, and they will feel they'll feel good. They'll also feel good about doing something that is important and great for the world. So yeah, just have fun, celebrate, enjoy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Next, we have 5 more minutes for questions. We got a question over here.
A question about physical rewards. You mentioned you had some physical things from companies. What are the logistics behind it? So just who ships the stuff and can collect the addresses? And
Yeah, no.
And a follow-up question already. Is it even sensible to donate physical things to you, to raffle, for example, on stream, or is it not worth the effort?
I think it depends. So in some cases, I have worked with brands that send it directly. In the case of Fractal, they were like, hey, we have to take account GDPR and stuff, so then we have to host it through a specific platform, which meant that I in the back had to make sure that, you know, all the correct links and stuff were in emails. So it does take some logistical planning, so I think that also adds into the make sure that you reach out on time, because that gives you the time to set things up and to coordinate things. I think it depends per person if they would be comfortable with like, hey, if I ship this to you and you can give it away. I think because I have a very worldwide audience, I wouldn't feel necessarily the most comfortable with having things shipped to my house and then shipping it on, because that would just also pretty quickly become costly, which would take away from the money that could have gone to charity, which is something that I would usually like to prevent. But I've seen creators do this where you can do like digital giveaways where someone's like, hey, if we're playing like a game like Palia, if there's people in the community that can be like, I can donate, I don't know, 10 skins that you can then give away because they want to help out in that hype as well. So there are alternatives. I think physical products are definitely a challenge.
Good question.
I also want to add to that. As you said, it can be very costly. I have gone to that once before where I tried to give away a microphone and suddenly cost $350 to send from Norway.
Ooh.
Yeah, oof. So I usually ask the brands themselves if they're able to do it, or if it's letters, then I can do that myself. For example, I am very into esports. I've been with Fnatic, I've been with Apex, and in Norway we have the Apex office, so if people were to be at our office to take their boot camps or something like that, I would, for example, say if you have donated so and so much money to the charity, I will get a Polaroid picture of your favorite player, get it signed, and then I would just ship it off to, for example, America, let's say Simple or something. But then again, if it would be more heavy, I think it would be very pricey.
Something to keep in mind as well, like if you're working with companies, is that depending on how big a company is, they usually have different hubs across the world. So having the company ship is definitely going to be much easier, unless you want to, let's say, maybe customize, like sign a product, and it's sort of more like your own responsibility to send, because after a product has been opened and utilized, this is not something that like companies can take back to send to someone. However, something that you can do is, if whoever you're talking with from the company would be okay with it, is that you can send an invoice for how much the shipping was. So that's like an option if some company, maybe not every brand is open, but some are. And then, I forgot what I was gonna say next. Oh well, maybe.
Well, that's all of our time for today. I would love to hear a round of applause for these amazing people. Thank you for sharing everything that you learned through your streaming career. I don't know if we're going to stick around for questions, but you know, we'll probably see us hanging around for the last hour of TwitchCon. So thank you, everyone.